Today we're going to be working on another Amazon's interview question. This is question number 24, swap nodes in pairs. We have been given a linked list, 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to swap 1 with 2, 3 with 4, 5 with 6, so on. If we have been given odd number of elements, we're not going to touch the last element. If it is empty, we're going to keep it empty. As I said, if it is only odd number of elements, we're not going to touch the last element. And one thing I do want to mention here is that technically speaking, if we try to do it recursively, we're going to end up having a linear space. This is because of the call stack. And so although the solution is going to look very slick and there are going to be less number of lines, but we want to avoid that just to keep the space constant. Okay, so we have been given 1, 2, 3, 4 null. The first thing we want to do is to put a dummy node in the front. So that will be our dummy node. This is where the head is, right? And also sitting at the dummy node, we want to have our previous element as dummy element, because sitting here we can actually swap the next two elements. If we try to do it on while we are sitting on head, we won't be able to swap the next two elements. So you need to be sitting on the previous element if you want to swap the next two elements. Okay, the first thing we want to do is, let's just make a copy of that, is that we want to say that the heads dot next is the second element. So this is the second element. Head second dot next is gonna be equal to the head. So second dot next is gonna be removed and it's gonna be equal to the head. That's the first thing we want to do. Did we change the head dot next? No, we did not. So the first thing is gonna be, we're on over here, so we declared the head. This is the next one, is gonna be that the head dot next is gonna be equal to the second dot next. Let's just go in this sequence here. So the first thing is that the head dot next is going to be equal to second dot next. Then the second dot next is going to be equal to the head. Eventually we are basically, what we are doing is like swapping the elements. So head dot next is equal to second dot next. Second dot next is equal to head. Okay, so now if 1 is pointing to 3, and 2 dot next is pointing to 1. Then what we need to do is to the previous dot next, right? This is the previous dot next. That is gonna point to previous dot next is gonna point to the second element. So we're gonna remove that. Just keep things here. And this is gonna point to the second element. And then we're just gonna the last thing we want to do is that the previous is gonna become equal to the second, and I'm sorry, the previous is gonna become equal to the head. Yes, and the head dot next is gonna become equal to head is gonna become equal to head dot next. So now the head is pointing, head dot next is pointing to 3. So that's where the third element is gonna be, where the head is gonna be. So this one can be written as, we still have our 0 as dummy, which is pointing to 2, which is pointing to 1, which is pointing to 3, which is pointing to 4, which is pointing to null. We still have 0 as dummy. The second element is here. The first element has like the head is here. This is the previous element, and that would be it. So this is the first iteration, because the second element can stay there, because every single time we are computing the second element, a new second element. So the first thing we want to do while we are in this loop, we are going to keep an eye on the head while there is not null and the head dot next is not null. So the first thing is that we're going to say that the head dot next is the second element. Then again, sitting here, we can actually swap them. The next two steps are that the head dot next is going to change to second dot next. The head dot next is going to change to second dot next. So this is going to be removed. Okay, and then the head dot next and the second dot next is going to become equal to head. It's going to become equal. After that, we do change the previous dot next. The previous dot next is going to be changed, and that is going to point to the second element. Okay, and then the previous is going to become equal to the head, and the second element, sorry, and the head is going to become equal to the head dot next. So head was this, this is going to be our next head. Oops. And if I rearrange it, 0 is point, we didn't change anything in here, so they're gonna stay the same. The 1 is pointing to the 4 now, 4 is pointing to 3 now, 3 is pointing to null now. So let's get into the code, and we're not gonna do that because the head is null now. So again, we had our dummy node, we made dummy dot next equal to head. We had our previous node as dummy. We said that the head, while the head is not null and the head dot next is not null, every single time we're going to calculate the second element, we're going to say that the head dot next is equal to next second dot next. This is the first element next getting fixed, and the second dot element that dot next is going to become equal to head, meaning this is the step basically where we are swapping, or not swapping, the second element is kind of gonna be pointing to the first element. And then because we have to update our previous, that's where we're gonna be sitting in order to swap the next two elements. And then we have our previous equals to the head, and then the head is gonna be equal to head dot next. Time complexity is linear, space complexity is constant. That's all I wanted to cover in this video. Thanks for watching.